Welcome everybody to the Talk Back Podcast, the show where we share our love for nerd culture for your entertainment. I'm one of your hosts, Matt, and I brought another special guest today. If you guys watch the show, you guys know who this guy is. This is my friend Andrew, aka Misguided Miscreants on IG, and we are here to talk about the new Netflix live action Cowboy Bebop that just premiered, and we're going to share our thoughts. First of all, thank you, Andrew, for joining me again.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be here.
If you guys watched this, he reviewed, or we did a retro review on the original Cowboy Bebop series before, and, you know, a year later, here we are, talking about the live action. So, it's here.
It's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen, and we're here.
Yep.
So, before we get into it, if you guys enjoy this content, please consider subscribing, like the video, drop a comment, and, you know, share your thoughts on the series. Just leave it in the comments. All right, so let's get into it. Andrew,
let's do it.
We just watched the show. Literally, we binged it just for this review, and I'm just curious, what were your initial thoughts when you first watched it?
Yeah, so I guess kind of going into it, I definitely tried to keep my thoughts open as much as possible and kind of put the anime in the back of my mind and just kind of take this show.
Very hard to do, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Very. Just kind of take the show as is. And initially, I want to give it like if I was to give it a number right now, I'll probably be at a 6. But we'll see if that goes down or goes up as we kind of talk through these things.
A 6 is pretty much where the audience score is at right now.
Okay,
gotcha, right now it's sitting at like a 50% with the critics and 50% with the fans, the audience score.
Interesting.
So it's right in the middle road. So it's not terrible. Right.
No. Okay. I don't think so.
So what are some of the good parts that you think that they accomplished with the series? Because it's a very hard series to do.
Yeah. I think definitely the music, you know. They kept it pretty true to the anime and with the whole bebop jazz kind of situation. And they did a very good job with that. I know they brought back Yoko Kanno.
That was the first thing they had to do if they wanted to do the series. So
Right. Even though they didn't bring back Watanabe, or they didn't have Watanabe too involved in this, at least they brought back
Did you know
Yoko.
the very first the cut in the first episode? What the casino was called?
No.
It was called Watanabe Casino. That was the very first frame of the first episode. I was like, nice. Okay, so at least, you know.
That's like their little Stan Lee cameo?
Yeah, basically. I'm kind of surprised they didn't get Shinichiro Watanabe to be more involved.
Yeah.
Because you would think this is kind of his baby.
Right.
But, you know, he's probably busy doing other stuff.
Right.
So the first episode, what was the feeling you got when you first watched it, like the very first episode?
Yeah, so the first episode, I literally just tried to absorb as much of the characters that I could. I thought, you know, just kind of going off of the whole vibe that, you know, they kind of started out with a bang, right?
Yeah.
And
bang. Right.
And just establishing Jet, establishing John Cho as a Spike, right? Or
Fearless. My God,
that's a new thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of new things in this series that we'll get into. How would you think about the aesthetic of the show?
It's fine, of course. You know, it's Netflix, so I guess the effects won't be too crazy. But then things that they kind of that would have been considered difficult, maybe kind of like the spaceships and like the. For example, the swordfish, they made it very cartoony. Yeah, which is fine. Like, it's just kind of the art direction that they took. I thought it was fine. It wasn't too big of a deal. I really don't have too high of expectations, especially since, I mean, I've seen a couple of other anime adaptations from Netflix.
Which ones have you seen?
Death Note, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, you actually watched Death Note?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I couldn't get past 20 minutes of that shit.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. But I mean, to be fair, their effects for Ryuk in that show was pretty good. So, like, my expectations were kind of middle of the road. But they kind of went the cartoony route for, I guess, special effects that would have been considered difficult. And I liked it. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes it looked really good, specifically the space, like the portals and stuff, the asteroids. It's like, okay, it looks pretty good. It's just when they're on Earth and there's more lighting involved that it does look a little cartoony and stuff. Yeah. The Bebop itself, it looked pretty good. Like the sets look pretty much what I imagine a real life Bebop looked like. The swordfish, you said, the red tail, like Faye's ship looked pretty good. Sometimes, like, what happens is that with it looks good on its own, but when you put the real live actors in it, that's when it looks really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
that makes sense.
It's that middle of the road thing. But
the green screen's kind of obvious.
You would think by this time the green screen effects would be better, but
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, if they did this show maybe 10 years ago, you think it would look worse? Or
I wonder if they'd kind of be more forced to use more practical.
That's what
kind
I'm
of
saying.
Effects, right?
They could have. I think they could have built like what Star Wars did back in the day. They built a live action, like live to scale model and just use that.
Right.
But maybe they waited this long so the effects would be better. I don't know.
Right, and like with the '98, like the anime obviously came out around '98, and so I guess anime back then, although they did use a lot of color palette, there wasn't much contrast, and so things were still kind of gritty. In terms
especially
of
the
what
80s animes,
right. In terms of what you see, and one thing that I noticed actually, and this is a bit kind of stepping out of the whole thing, was that during the night scenes of this show, there's a lot of neon, and it actually reminded me a lot of Ghost in the Shell for some reason.
I was thinking Blade Runner too, a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that was intentional too.
Yeah, obviously, I think when Watanabe made this anime, he definitely took a lot of influence from those two things.
A lot of different things, yeah.
Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell.
What was the thing they said about Cowboy Bebop? It's like, it's a genre. It's a
into
mixture.
itself or something like that.
Yeah, it's a mixture of different genres.
Yeah.
And you definitely see it in the show. They definitely tried to pay homage to a lot of different things.
Right.
In my opinion, some of it didn't work because it was too amateurish. I don't know. So we'll get into it.
Yeah. But yeah, the first episode, I think, they established kind of what the Bebop was, who Jet and Spike was, what they were, what they're doing, what their financial situation is like, which is probably kind of a very important kind of thing in the show. Yeah.
Was it weird to see some of the characters come to life?
I don't think so.
Yeah. You think most of it worked?
I think it was fine. Yeah. I mean, they did a very good job with how Spike and Jet looks. It's pretty truthful I think it's pretty similar to the show, especially what they did with John Cho.
Yeah, I'll say right off the bat, the main three, Faye, Jet, and Spike, they actually did a very good job.
Yeah.
Bringing out the characters from the anime.
Yeah.
Now some characters definitely didn't get the same treatment.
Yeah.
And I think who.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically. But Jet, shout out to Mustafa, Shakir. He did a great job capturing Black Jet Black, because Bo Billingsley voiced him originally. So even though he's not black in the anime, having him black here, it still fit like a glove.
It made sense.
Yeah.
And
John, I was very wary of him being Spike because of his age. Because Spike, in my opinion, was supposed to be like 30s, late or early 30s, if anything.
You can see it in his face, but it's fine. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it was too big of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely see the age in John Cho's face.
Yeah, a little bit. The hair, I'm glad he got the hair right.
Yeah.
It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just that when he's doing the fight scenes, you could tell the age is like, if this was done 15 years ago of John Cho, I think he would have done better with the fight choreography and stuff.
Yeah, and to be fair, and we'll talk more about this character later, but it seemed like Vicious and Spike were kind of the same age. Vicious didn't look that young either. Right. So even though in the anime he does look he kind of looks like a crack addict. But yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, his name's
scraggly eyes.
Yeah. His name's Vicious, so he's a little scarred. What did you think about Faye, Daniella Pineda?
I thought she did really well.
I think so too.
I think she was pretty much kind of like a scene stealer in most of her scenes. She's very vulgar, which is a little. I mean, it's the same characteristic, right? But she doesn't actually do that in the show. But she is very outspoken. And I guess that's kind of the style that they went with Faye in the show.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the cussing in the show, it's like they got the liberty to do whatever they want. Yeah, I thought some of it was just a little like, this is not how I remember Cowboy Bebop to be like. They cussed in the original, but they would take go out of their way to like drop the F-bomb every time they can get. You know, the gore in this thing was a little more gory than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember being this violent either.
Yeah.
And there was this one episode where they're like doing drugs and you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of titties everywhere. I was like, wow, this is
this
is different.
Yeah, that was episode 3, I think.
Yeah.
With
The red eye
Abdul
stuff.
Hakim, right?
Yeah.
And that I thought that was. I feel like that was kind of just Netflix being just for the sake of being edgy.
Right.
But
yeah.
whatever.
It's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the best way to describe the show. I think I have it in my head. It's like think of it as your favorite band. This is their greatest hits, but the music is done by an amateur cover band. That's the best way I can describe the show, because they took some of the best episodes from the series, not all of it, but they try to cram it and mix it with other episodes too.
Yep.
So I was like,
I
was like, wow, okay, this is.
Yeah.
You know, they clearly took it from the source material.
Yeah.
They try to spin it around, but still, we know exactly how the original went down.
Right.
Like the episode with the mom and the
Murdoch.
is the Murdoch?
Yeah, Murdoch.
The old lady, right?
The rats.
Yeah, the rats.
Ganymede sea rats.
Right. And this
whole
one,
gang.
they didn't turn into animals. They turned into fucking
trees.
Yeah. So they became they were an environmentalist group, but
Right.
they changed it a little bit.
Right.
And you know, that's the kind of stuff they did with the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They definitely tried to kind of intertwine some things here and there. Like I guess in my notes here, I have, for example, in that episode, while that whole thing is happening with the Sea Rat gang, Faye's actually trying to figure out more about her past.
Right.
By finding that guy, I forgot his name, but
Whitley Hatley or something.
Yeah.
WH. Whatever.
Yeah. And
and then Faye popped up extremely early in
Yeah.
the show. She was in episode 1.
Yeah.
And we know she doesn't pop up until later in
Yeah.
the original series.
and she disappears, right?
Yeah,
For the
she's-
next episode.
yeah, for like
And
an
she
episode or two.
She comes back on the 4th episode, so. And she's pretty much a mainstay after that.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out what the process was for the writers, like as far as constructing the episodes and the writing. It's like why did they choose these specific episodes? Like Pierre LeFou was there.
Yeah.
The VHS cassette episode with Faye was there. What other episodes? Obviously, the first episode, the Desperado one with like, Asimov was there. So it's like they're trying to incorporate some of the most memorable scenes, but they're like, they just remixed it or something.
Right.
I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. And so I guess, was it episode 1 where Asimov was involved, or was that episode
That was
2?
only episode 1, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And episode 2, honestly, I don't even remember much about it.
What was episode 2 again?
I did not take notes on it.
Hold on, I got it.
I know we see Gren, who isn't.
Yeah.
We can talk. We can go.
What?
We can talk about the characters.
Okay.
But okay, yeah. Just to give an idea, I don't remember too much of what happened in episode 2. It's kind of they're still trying to introduce things. They introduce Annie, and Spike sees Annie and asks for her help. And so those characters are kind of established. But in the next episode, in episode 3, we meet Abdul Hakim, who's mostly white in this episode, which
It's like, why?
right?
What was the
Which
point
is
of that?
Kind of weird, and they also completely changed his background and his character, and we are introduced to Ayn as well in that episode.
The Day of the Dog guy.
Right, and while that episode is happening, we also, like I said, Faye is trying to figure more about her past,
Right.
and she talks to WH, right, whatever, and which I think turned out to be her adoptive mother.
Yeah.
Later in like episode 8 or whatever, later down the season, you see it.
Right.
And spoilers, by the way. But yeah, we also learned that more about Jet here, right?
Right. So they changed the backstories a little bit for each of the characters. Spike, for the most part, remained the same. He's still part of the Syndicate, and there's still a love triangle. So that remained the same. Jet, what mostly changed is that he has a daughter in this one.
Right. And I actually really respect that, because at first I thought I was like, wait, he never had a daughter.
Yeah.
I had to rethink about it. But that's the thing, though, was like, if they included if he did have a daughter in anime,
Uh-huh.
you would totally expect it because he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Even the wife it paid homage to the girlfriend in the original.
Alyssa?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's
And
a nice touch.
Yeah, and I think that was a great idea, and I think they, for the most part, they executed it pretty well.
Because we always see Jet as like the dad character anyway, so
Right.
it wasn't out of character for him.
Right, and it kind of gave us, I guess, it gave more people. I don't have a daughter. Matt does not have a daughter, but it gave more people to kind of connect with Jet and kind of relate to him. So I thought that was good. We also learned more about kind of Jet's past. About he was once with the ISSP, and something happened with him, obviously. And,
another retreading of the old episodes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The noir episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to talk about kind of like, I guess for episode, did you want to go through like each episode?
Yeah, there's only 10. So 10 hour-long episodes, which I wasn't expecting that for some reason.
Right.
I should have because it's Netflix. They're known for hour-long content anyway.
Right, right. And we can just kind of like go through each one as you kind of remember it. Like for episode 4, Ganymede Sea-Rat episode, we meet Mom, a.k.a. Murdoch, with her gang. And basically, the first thing that I noticed in this episode was, what the hell is Faye flying in? Her first ship. It wasn't the Red Tail.
I actually thought that was a cool touch too.
Yeah.
Because Faye is known to be like a little sneak. So the fact that she would steal multiple ships before getting the Red Tail at the end, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. She took Swordfish. She took Iron.
She takes shit,
Right.
She's a gambler too. Oh, they didn't really make that her character. Yeah, I really like what Daniella Pineda did with Faye.
Right.
I personally think she's beautiful too. So they help for the male audience.
Yeah.
They made her lesbian, which was a weird touch.
I was confused about this. Is she lesbian or bisexual? I was
confused about that too. Yeah.
So
she seemed more leaning towards women.
Right.
The way they're really stringing that on. Who was that girl? It was like an engineer friend of Jet.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an engineer. I don't think she was in the anime. But,
yeah. Yeah, there are definitely some new characters for sure. But to me, they didn't really stick. So that was kind of like a fail attempt.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, this is what they're kind of just trying to establish. Like, oh yeah, Faye is into girls, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
I thought it still kind of fit in her realm of character. She, like, even if she is a lesbian, she still had the sex appeal from the show. So
surprisingly, because the outfit, I thought it was going to change, but it didn't do anything.
Yeah, she wore a red dress. So I forgot what episode it was, but she wore a red dress which had some cleavage, which was
nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
For me,
but yeah. Anyway, let's see. Kind of talking about
Okay, let's talk about that big elephant in the room. Let's talk about the Syndicate cast. Okay, because this is where the show fails miserably.
A lot changes here.
Yeah, so
not for the better.
Yeah, let's talk about Vicious first.
Sure.
Okay, Vicious in the original series was only in 5 episodes. He had barely any dialogue. In this show, he's pretty much the main villain who's in every episode, and he has a different personality. In my opinion, one of the worst changes they did to him was make him too emotional.
Yeah.
Because in the OG series, he was like this cold-hearted.
Right. Mysterious.
Yeah.
There's an intrigue about him.
Right. This one, it's like off the bat, you kind of know what he is. It's like he's a spoiled brat of the Syndicate. His dad's, he runs everything. So he was like, that kind of thing. I hated what they did with Vicious.
Yeah. I don't like what they did with Vicious at all.
Even the character design, like that wig was not convincing.
Right.
It's like, could you guys...
Honestly, they could have just made him black-haired and just called him Vicious. I wouldn't have given a care.
Yeah.
Like, I really would not have given a shit because...
It was just distracting for me.
Yeah, it's a little distracting, and like, he's very emotional and...
Too emotional.
Animated, and I hated it. In the show, and Vicious is actually my favorite character.
Yeah, I know, because you have a figure of him too.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
And, to me... His most interesting aspects was we don't know much about him. He has that intrigue. He's very mysterious, right? And just kind of that mysterious aspect kind of drew people to him. And
because you wanted to know more about him.
Right.
Yeah. And
right.
this one, it's just like, you know everything about him, basically.
Right. And Netflix saw that as an opportunity, obviously, and literally just, you know.
It's like, some of them, I get what the writers were trying to do. They're trying to give more character to the characters that were sidelined in the original one.
Right.
But it's like, they kind of missed the mark on what the characters were.
Right.
It's like, Vicious wasn't, his name's Vicious, but in this fucking series, he's a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, he might as well be just called a bitch.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Like, he's still a badass, right? That's the thing. Like, he can fight.
Yeah.
Like, he can fight.
He had one scene that was cool.
Yeah.
And that's it. Everything else is like, I'm tired of seeing his face.
And kind of going off of that, the way the whole thing happens when he takes over the Syndicate, I did not like it. They made it very obvious from early of the season. When you get introduced to Vicious in the show, he just takes over.
Yeah.
That's like literally the first thing that you see is just him killing the elders, and he takes over the Syndicate.
Right.
And you kind of get this dialogue between Julia and Vicious, and you kind of get the idea that he's like an abusive asshole and
spoiled.
It's just, right.
Always trying to prove himself.
Right.
And that's never what his character was. He
No.
he knew exactly what he was in the OG.
Yeah, it was a little child, man.
Yeah.
You know, and
I hate it.
In the show, he's very manipulative, but, you know, not in such a like, I guess, direct way. Yeah. He was a leader. He was still a leader, and
Yeah.
I don't think many people really looked up to him and liked him as a leader in this show. Obviously, as the anime and the show goes on, you know, characters such as Gren and Lin, you know, they end up kind of especially when they find out that Spike's alive,
right?
You know, they kind of revert back and that, you know, that they need balance in Syndicate, and so.
That was another thing that they changed that I didn't really like. I don't know if there is a season 2, if they make it. I don't know if they'll fix this, but the relationship between Vicious and Spike, in the original series, they're supposed to be like, they're like the best members of the Syndicate, right? They usually fought or did all the jobs together, and then Spike eventually drifted apart and then basically ran away from the Syndicate. At the same time, he was just trying to run away from it, but Vicious always like did his own thing. In this series, Vicious, I feel like he's always pursuing Spike. It was usually the opposite. It's like Vicious or Spike was gravitated to Vicious, so he's always, every time he hears his name, he's like, where the fuck is he? I gotta fight him. I gotta find and kill him. This one's like, he just wants to go off and do his own thing, but Vicious is always behind him trying to get him. Right. So I was like, that was a weird dynamic.
Right.
And then,
yeah, in the anime, there never really was a chase between the two. I want to say
they just coincided.
Right. Most of the time, it was just circumstances on one end and the other, and it just kind of collided.
Right.
For example, the first time that they meet in church in the anime, that's pretty much, I think, Faye was being held hostage. And I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but they kind of switched that in the show.
Switched a lot of things up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just didn't like that relationship. And they took liberty to kind of show more of the... That's what I wanted from the series. I wanted, like, a backstory of their relationship in the Syndicate. Yeah. Because that was the most important, the most intriguing part of Spike's story. It's like, okay, what was your role in the Syndicate? What happened between you, Julia, and Vicious? And this one, they actually took the liberty to write the story, but I didn't like the story that they that they wrote. Right. It was just too...
It didn't... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
It didn't really make sense to me that, especially when they went to the flashback episode 9.
That was actually my least favorite episode.
Interesting. Mine was 6. Yeah. But it didn't make sense to me as to how loyal they made Spike out to be to Vicious, and then he would just turn around and fuck his girl. Right. That didn't make any sense to me. I think in the anime, although they were partners in the Syndicate, they kind of... they were still, I feel like, you know, kind of pursuing their own interests, and that's what led to the whole love triangle situation. Then Julia's kind of a she's kind of a thought. So,
and more so in this series. Yeah, Julia's okay. Let's talk about Julia then.
Didn't like her either.
Yeah. Julia. They changed a lot of things. Julia in this series was married to Vicious, which is I thought that was an odd choice. Because now we're going to see more of Julia. Because in the original series, we never saw her until the last 2 episodes. Right. And then she's here in the very beginning. So that was a weird choice. Her character itself, again, just like Vicious, she was supposed to be this mysterious figure that we're supposed to kind of like build and kind of form our own opinions on.
Right.
But no, they took the time to give her a backstory. She was a lounge singer, I guess.
Right.
She was like,
and there are some singing aspects. Like, she is known to be a pretty good singer on the show, and that's kind of, I'm not sure if you recall, but
in real life or on the show?
No, in the show.
Oh, okay.
But the first time in the anime, when Spike goes through that window, through that in the church, and they recover him, the first thing that he hears is Faye actually him humming the song that Julia used to sing.
Right.
And he says, "You're off key." And
yeah.
he smacks him.
Mm-hmm. And that was Battle of the Fallen Angels, right?
Right.
That episode. Okay.
Yeah. And I guess that's what they try to build off of.
Fail.
Right.
Julia, I don't know what they could have done to. I don't know if it was the actress choice that fucked it up or the writing. It could be
Definitely
a little bit
writing.
of both.
I don't think she had much choice. Definitely, actor's job is just to follow the script.
Yeah. So, we'll just skip to the very end for Julia because this is the most important part of her character. She, in the original series, she basically wanted to run away with Spike, away from the Syndicate. This one, they did a complete 180. Now she wants to run the Syndicate. So, what do you think about that change?
Not a good one because it's a twist for the sake of being a twist,
right?
And it's not a good twist,
right?
Basically, what they're doing is they're throwing Vicious's character to the side, like, okay, and that's part of the reason why too, is to why they. Well, I guess maybe why they wanted to show
to be different,
a more expanded version of Vicious, or expand on his character, because they wanted to pretty much expel everything that they could on this character so they can throw him to the side for the next season.
Right. Because that is a hostage at the very end.
Right. Julia takes him hostage, and she's basically going to be the pseudo leader of the Syndicate. And I mean, it's interesting in terms of just kind of thinking about it and the prospect of it, but I don't think it's such a huge character change from what we see. Like, Julia goes through a couple of changes in character during the show, and it's a little baffling, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's
it's weird to say the least.
Right.
Because Julia, that's the thing about the original series too. Julia, I never really got her character, but her character is based on Spike's relationship to her. That was basically her role in the whole series. This one, they're trying to create a whole character arc for her.
Right.
And I feel like this is the best way they can involve her in the story without throwing her to the side.
Right.
But in order for her to be like this, I feel like they would have had to establish her being some type of a badass or some type of fighter. I don't know, because I can't buy the fact that she can take over a Syndicate, because there's no indication of her showing any leadership or any type of power. She was just a lounge singer, like you said. So I'm like, how are they going to make this convincing?
Right.
Is my question.
And I mean, in the anime, she does show some skill with the gun, and like she drives Faye around, which is really cool.
Right.
But
there's nothing in this one.
Yeah, like how are people within the Syndicate supposed to be really convinced?
Right. Just because you're married to Vicious, that doesn't do shit.
Right. And also like Annie and Gren, right? Like Annie wasn't in the anime. We learn that Annie is not even with the Syndicate anymore.
Right.
I think same with Gren. He was just kind of doing his own thing. And so here we still see them obviously tied to the Syndicate.
Right. Another big change.
That's a huge change.
Yeah. I think what they did with Annie was actually all right.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
Her running a bar and being kind of successful. I guess she had some. Spike liked her.
Yeah.
He wanted to bang her one time.
Yeah.
Gren.
Not as ambiguous as I had hoped. I think when you look at Gren in the anime, honestly, you would think that as a guy, you would think that's a hot girl.
Yeah.
And maybe as a chick, you would think that's a handsome guy.
Yeah.
But here, it's not as ambiguous. So I guess just kind of like the design wasn't that thought out.
Right. I want to be respectful to the community of the LGBT, because I know if any of you guys are hearing this character is a big deal, I guess, in the anime community, because apparently there's not a lot of like binary.
Yeah, it's one of the first.
Yeah, one of the first. Very revolutionary at this time. But what they did with Grin, in my opinion, was like pure character assassination. Seriously, like I was very upset with what they did with this character because he was one of the most intriguing characters in the original series.
Yeah,
because of his relationship to Vicious,
right?
Because of
his backstory.
He was a mean saxophone player too,
right?
And the fact that he was a character that was forced into like experimentation,
right?
None of that is fucking present. It was like this is a brand new character at this point. It's like
and he's very somber in the anime. He seems pretty happy here.
Yeah, he's like he's a waiter or a hostess or whatever the fuck.
I think what they should have done was just make this a brand new character.
Yeah, it's like
it would have been totally fine.
Yeah, this is because I don't mind that kind of character in the show, but it shouldn't be this character.
Right.
You know, Grin's supposed to be this war. He fought in Titan, the Titan War with Vicious.
Right.
And in this character, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know. I was very upset.
Maybe we'll see that, but yeah, like just from what we're seeing from him right now, it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, you're just a character. That's it. That's all I got. You're just Annie's assistant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I wish they had just made that character a brand new character. I wouldn't have minded at all, and just maybe save Gwen for the second season, which they are going to have.
Yeah, apparently.
Right.
Yeah. Oh no, man, I hated that character. Well, since we're talking about that too, what were some of the other stories or remixed characters that you thought were okay that they did pretty well? Because there were very little original characters in this one. They pretty much try to bring some of the most iconic characters from the series.
The one that pops into my head is Pierrot.
Yeah, obviously.
At first, and I don't know if I still like it, to be honest. At first, I really hated it. The change up of him hating dogs instead of cats. I thought that was an unnecessary change. It was just an excuse for them to tie Iron further in, which is not really necessary.
I guess it really doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
it's just a change for sake of being different.
Yeah, and the fact that similar to they try to tie everything in a way that everything is tied together for the sake of being tied together, and Pierrot isn't really tied to the Syndicate at all in the anime.
You made up a very good point I forgot to mention. So this series, unlike the original one, tried to be a linear story.
Yeah.
They really tried to connect the characters and events together to make it cohesive, as opposed to the original, which was known to be episodic and you can kind of watch any episode on its own and it could just live on its own.
Right.
This one, everything had to be connected somehow.
Right.
In some way.
That's one thing I didn't like was that, let's say they're focusing on the whole, let's say, Abdul Hakim, right? Not even related to the Syndicate at all, but somehow we get scenes of Vicious and Julia during this episode, which doesn't really make sense. So, and you get little trickles, like little 5-minute trickles of what's going on. Oh, here's what's going on with Vicious and Julia in every single episode, and it's so distracting. And as we kind of mentioned, we really didn't even like what they did with Vicious and Julia, so it wasn't very good for their attempt at cohesiveness. And kind of going off of that as well is that Bebop is the exact opposite of what cohesive is supposed to be, and they shouldn't have done that.
Right. It's supposed to be a variety of different things. And
right.
This is like trying to be too, like, again, it's too linear.
Right. Each episode is supposed to tell a story, and they tried to string bits and pieces of the main bigger storyline by expanding on Vicious and Julia. They shouldn't have done that. What they should have done is just probably dedicated an episode just to that.
Right.
I don't think it would have been a good episode, but what they did here, it was very it was very distracting. And
it goes to that old saying, less is more sometimes. Right. If we got a little bit less of Vicious, a little bit less of Julia, I think the series would have worked a lot better.
Right.
Because it would have allowed Spike or the Bebop crew to have a little more shine too, because they focus a lot of screen time on Julia. It was like, I didn't need this.
Yeah.
I really did need more Vicious.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And kind of going back to Pierrot, one thing that I took down on my notes is that he's not as crazy as he is in the anime, in my opinion, which is kind of whack. They also hired him to kill Spike, which is kind of whack. Where in the anime, they kind of meet by chance, which is really awesome because
Vicious hired him, right? So it's like
Right.
Okay.
And it's like, if he's supposed to be crazy, for what reason, and they talk about giving him red eye, but in the experiments, you don't really see them using red eye.
Yeah.
And they don't really go back to the red eye at all.
They made the red eye they made it like a big deal in this world for some reason. I don't remember being in any other episodes besides the first episode. Do you remember?
Who?
The red eye itself.
No.
Like, I don't remember it being this big, like, I can use it for clout. Like, I can convince people red eye and then they'll do jobs for me, Like, it's like cocaine in this world for some reason.
Right. And Vicious is trying to pretty much kind of capitalize on that business for the Syndicate, which I think he does in the anime. I can't remember if he does it in the show, but he tries to do it in anime, but obviously the Syndicate's trying to step away from that. They don't really deal with drugs. But Vicious trying to do his own thing. But that was really confusing. I don't like what they did with that. It was just kind of to give him a reason just for the sake of giving him a reason.
Right.
And I really liked, the way they did it in anime, in which he just so happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, which is so like Spike, right? And it just got rid of the intrigue and spontaneity of Mad Piero. They're trying to make it easier for the viewers to understand the story and the characters and as a cohesive piece, but which is good for the new viewers, but bad for the old ones.
Right. And that's the thing about the show too. It kind of relies on, it's trying to be its own thing, but it relies on you to kind of know the source material. Because I know that you try to have that headspace of just watching it on its own. Right. But it's really hard to watch it if you have watched the original series. Right. It's like it's near damn impossible to not compare it because there's so many, they took so many things from the original series that it's hard to look at it on its own. Right. Besides episode 9, which was the only original like story.
I think episode 6 was too, when he got trapped in a loop.
That was still Brain Scratch. That was that episode. Oh. Remember when they bought that game system that was taking people's minds and stuff?
I need to rewatch that.
Yeah, that was one of the
same
ones.
Scene though? He kept on seeing Julia over and over again?
No, so they changed that part of the story. But again, they took inspiration from that episode. Right. Like the whole like brain control thing. Right. And
that was my least favorite episode. The whole thing with Julia being played over and over again.
Yeah. The infinite time loop shit.
Right.
I hate that concept.
It's such a cheap way to kind of go just to make an episode.
And I think that was actually the first time they even mentioned Edward. They said Radical Ed. Yeah. I was like, okay, is he going to pop up or is she going to pop up? Yeah. The episode didn't bother me. What did bother me was that they focused a lot on it. Yeah, I guess because I like the concept of it because it was an okay way of showing Spike's past in a more clever way than just a flashback.
It would have been more interesting if the loop that they played has something to do with their past, and I think
like an actual event,
right?
Yeah, not just Julia popping up where he is supposed to be.
Right. I think that would have been made it more interesting.
Yeah, like
they did a scene that's possibly from the past.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense to me that they would. Like how did the machine, I guess, like, create that whole scene? It doesn't really make sense.
There was actually a little cool CGI effect they did, like a little.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Like the shadow effect on the which made it obvious that it was not real. I guess.
And the little chamber he was in when it was like corrupt, like doing this shit. I was like, that's kind of cool. So they have a budget for the show. Yeah. So it's cool.
Yeah. Kind of sticking with the whole Syndicate thing. Mao and Santiago, which is a new character. They call him the eunuch. I don't like what they did with Mao. She's a factory worker. I don't care about the gender change at all. Right. But obviously in the anime, Mao is a very important character to both Vicious and Spike.
Yeah. He was like the
pretty much their father
figure. Yeah.
And
he was married to Anne, right? In the original series?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember. I think so. Something like that.
I can't remember, actually.
They did have some kind of, obviously they had a working relationship, but I can't remember if they had an actual relationship. But yeah, I don't like what they did with Mao at all. Just another throwaway character.
Yeah, they just wasted her. Right. So, Santiago was who was the character that liked to eat testicles?
That was him.
That was Santiago. Yeah. Okay. Brand new character. Very wacky. That was actually one of the first characters. I was like, okay, you're kind of memorable.
Yeah, he was intriguing, and
Yeah.
they just killed him off like he was garbage.
Yeah, and they showed this one scene of him eating. Was he eating a ball testicle?
I have no idea what that was.
He enjoyed the fuck out of it. I don't know what he ate.
It looked like a sweet potato.
That's why, yeah, like a tomato or something.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, there's something. That's a new character.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty interesting. Added a little bit more dynamic to the Syndicate, but
Right.
when it got to the point where Vish is going to take over, spoiler alert, but he makes a deal with Mao and Santiago to team up and take over the
Right.
Syndicates, kill the elders.
The
They
one
end up backstabbing him.
the one cool scene that actually threw me off because I thought they actually did kill Vicious for a quick second.
I was ready to be so disappointed. I was about to. This review probably wouldn't have been happening if they did that.
You would have
but
been like, "Fuck the show."
That was a good twist. That was a good twist.
That was a decent twist.
Yeah.
Okay, Vicious. And then when he killed off the thing, I was like, okay, there's a badass in there somewhere.
Right.
And he was killing like I think Vicious would kill people. You know,
Right.
just wasting them.
Yeah.
With a sword. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is when we kind of learn about one of the elders being his father. And
Whack.
Yeah. It's just
Whack
not
as
good.
fuck. That didn't need to be there.
Yeah. No.
It just made him so childish.
the whole point of the whole anime was that you have Spike and Vicious kind of just making their way up from they're a bunch of nobodies and
Right.
nothings, and they're just kind of making their way up just from pure,
Yeah.
hard work and skill.
Yeah. The one thing about the Syndicate that made it very cool was the fact that there are some members that wanted Spike to actually take over the Syndicate at one point.
You're talking about the anime or the
Yeah, the
show?
anime.
Yeah.
It could have been either or. You got like the angel and the devil that they tried to do in this show.
Yeah, they always mention it like, oh yeah, this, things would be better off if
Spike took
was still
over.
alive.
Yeah.
Like if maybe Vicious wasn't by himself exactly. Like I could see Vicious being the leader, but I feel like they had such a great balance, obviously, between Spike and Vicious that
Right.
they created such a perfect balance among each other that if they
Right.
had cola the Syndicate, I feel like it definitely would have ended up how Mao envisioned the Syndicate.
Yeah, that's
in
how
the anime.
That's how it's supposed to be in the
Right,
anime. Yeah,
right.
But that was the biggest failures in this show. I don't know why they didn't capitalize on that concept of Spike being like he could have actually ran it had he chose to do it. But in this show, he had no interest whatsoever because, like you said, he was following Vicious the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was like,
I really wish Netflix had more respect for their viewers and just didn't think that we were all just a bunch of small brain fucks.
Right. Because this show, I still think it had potential. Like, it was there. Honestly, they had the trio cast. They had the budget. It was really just like they went further in some places where they didn't need to, and they didn't go far enough in some places.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. It's just like, I guess this is why season 2 is necessary, because now that they've seen what didn't work, maybe they can actually improve it with the next season.
Right. And it's going to be
Hopefully.
completely different. That's what's going to hurt, is because obviously Julia is going to be the leader of the Syndicate. We'll see how that plays out and what happens with Vicious and all that stuff. So in that way, I guess they do a great job of, wanting a season 2. I don't know. People actually really.
That's the thing. Based on the reviews, I mean, it's very divisive. It's so middle road that's like they can go either way. They can't. I think they will most likely make a season 2, but at the same time, they lost a lot of viewers at this point. So
I want to say the liberties that they took 50-50 was good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the fact that they did take a chance, but at the same time, it's like you can't. The chances they took, now that we have it, it's like, okay, it's not good.
Right.
in some places.
Right.
So hopefully when season 2 does come around, they create a story that makes sense, because now that we have the characters, it's like you have to roll with the plot that you created. So at this point, Spike, Jet, Faye, they got those 3 fine, perfectly fine. Everyone else, they have to improve writing wise.
Hey, Ein's good.
I mean, the dog, the theater dog, that can project. I was like, okay.
I mean, I don't know.
How did Pierre LeFou even get access to Ein's?
I know, right? That was some weird.
Did I not pay attention? Is there a way you can connect to dogs?
He had like something on his arm, like some kind of computer device, and
that could connect to all dogs in the world or something.
And that was just like an attempt for them to kind of give Ein a bigger background.
That was a small little difference too. I remember in the Hakim episode, they're saying that a Welsh Corgi isn't worth shit. It's like 2 oolongs. In this world, dogs are like gold,
Yeah, they're worth a
basically.
lot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Apparently. So I was like, why do
Makes
you
you
have to change
wonder.
that?
What makes you wonder what people doing in this version of the anime keep as house pets, right?
Right. Or none.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even said, I think Jet said too, was like, you don't see dogs. Or when's the last time you've seen a dog?
Right.
Apparently, they're a dime a dozen.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. And can we talk about just the whole what would have been Ballad of the Fallen Angels?
Right.
Just that episode, the last episode.
Okay.
And
So
I liked what they did with the whole switch up with Spike and Jet being caught and Faye saving their ass rather than the other way around.
right.
Well, Jet really didn't really do anything in the anime. He was just kind of
Jet actually doesn't do a lot of things in the anime.
Yeah, he was
kinda
dealing with
there.
his bonsai trees and just thinking if he really wanted to help out.
Yeah.
And eventually he did. He got them both out of there. But he's there from the very beginning with dealing with his daughter and stuff. They use the Syndicate uses his daughter as like a plot device or a trade to get to Spike. I thought it was fine until the very the last 15 minutes.
Right. Before I jump into that, there was one scene I actually really, really liked.
Okay.
It was the bowling scene. Do you remember that scene? It was right before Pierre LeFou came. There's this one moment. This is the moment where I thought, okay, these three can actually carry the show together. It was when they're bowling and Jet kind of just surprises Faye with a birthday cake.
Oh,
and
yes.
I was actually,
that
actually got me.
That was great.
Yeah, I was
that
like,
was great.
okay.
I really like that. I actually made a note about that. That was really good.
Because I was like, oh, Spike, they actually care about Faye. And Faye, it's mutual, their relationship. It's like they choose to be together, like in the show. It's like they have every reason to not be with each other, but now they're kind of creating like a family dynamic, which is a little bit different, but it works because I believe that these characters, they can work together.
Yeah, and that was like the episode in which they kind of really come together.
Yeah.
Not just as a team, but as kind of like a small family. And by the end of episode 10.
Yeah, they split off again.
Right.
A little too soon, to be honest. But what'd you think about that recreation of the VHS moment with Faye?
I thought it was a lost opportunity that they didn't kind of take more from. I really liked that episode in the anime in which they look for the player, the VHS player. I think it was a Betamax player, though, actually.
In the original, yeah.
Yeah, but either way, almost the same thing.
Because now we're like, did you notice that the year is actually different, too?
No.
Okay, so it's actually 100 years later than the original one. So
which doesn't really make sense.
It makes sense because I think if it was 2071, that technology wouldn't even reach that, so they just advanced it more. To like,
I feel like that was such an opportunity, especially to connect to new viewers and kind of give like a little social commentary about like, hey, younger generation, this is called the VHS.
Right.
It would have just been another opportunity to kind of. I really like that episode just because back then, right? It was 98. Everyone knew what a VHS player is. Now, nobody knows what a VHS player is, and it would have been great for just that whole social commentary to kind of, connect each other and just kind of, give these new viewers, younger viewers, kind of like a view as to what it was like back then. But
and again, this is where the show is missing its mark on like who are you guys trying to cater to with this audience? Because if this was like a child born after the 2000s watching this, they're like, what the fuck is a VHS?
Right.
There's no way they would understand what the fuck that is.
Or what the fuck is Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah,
really,
exactly. So, but there are just certain things. It's like, okay, you're trying to cater to the fans, but you're also trying to build a new fan base with this new story. And it's like, you can't please everyone. So you got to pick one because you can't please everyone,
Right.
So just stick to your guns, whoever's writing the show for season 2, because you're missing the mark on a lot of different things.
Right.
You're doing too much right now.
Right. And obviously there are some still, besides the whole VHS thing, there's still some small characters that we miss from the anime. Chessmaster Hex.
Oh yeah, that was actually my other question to you. So they did some episodes, but they didn't do a lot.
Right.
Are there some episodes you want to see recreated or,
I hope they still bring in those characters.
Okay. Like Heavy Metal Queen, would you want to see her?
I think it's fine.
I'm surprised they didn't use her in this one.
I think the episode's great.
Yeah.
What's that kid's name?
The Sympathy for the Devil one?
Yeah. Sympathy for the Devil.
You want to see that? I don't know if I want to see that.
It'll be so creepy.
I don't think they would do it well. That's why.
Really?
Yeah. because that episode is one of the heaviest ones in the original series.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I don't want
dark,
them to fuck. Yeah, I don't want them to fuck it up. Actually, before we even mention the season finale, the one thing I wish they did do better was world building, because I didn't think they did a very good job of explaining why that world is the way it is in that way. Because it felt like in the original series they were explaining like the crashes and the gateway and all that stuff. I didn't get any of that in this one.
Yeah,
it's like why are there different colonies and
right.
why are we living on different planets?
Right.
We're just they're in this show. They're just kind of existing in this new world, but they didn't do a good job of explaining how it works. Because it's just like, yeah, there are multiple planets. Yeah, there's gateways, but you know, why is the world the way it is? You
right.
know?
And I don't even know they really mentioned anything about Earth.
They mentioned it once because I think Jet had to go to Earth for the brain scratch episode.
Right.
To help Spike.
But did they actually mention what happened to Earth?
No, that's what I'm saying.
It is what it is.
Yeah, they didn't do world building.
Right.
Yeah, they focused so much on the Syndicate itself, but they forgot about everything around it.
Right. So, yeah, you're right.
Like they mentioned Venus, blah blah blah, but
right.
It's like
they mentioned Mars, but yeah, they don't mention anything about like the Titan War.
Right.
They don't mention anything about
if they did
crash,
it.
right?
Yeah, exactly. The most important things.
Yeah.
Because like how are different humans living on different planets? That's intriguing.
Right.
That's because in the original series, Earth is like this inhabitant world that barely anyone lives on because there's meteors constantly crashing on the Earth.
Right.
It's unlivable.
Right.
And then in this one, it's like no.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So missed opportunity there.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll see more in season 2, but
yeah,
we'll see.
Do it before it's too late, guys. Okay, so season finale. Vicious. There's that last scene with Spike and Vicious. How did you think they adapted it?
I think so. I thought the fight was fine. Whatever. My beef was the very end, in which we get the plot twist about Julia wanting to take over the Syndicate.
Right.
Vicious is about to kill Spike. Vicious gets shot. Julia shoots Vicious before he gets to kill Spike, and they get into this whole tirade about Spike wanting to run away with Julia. Pretty much the whole Spike thing, and Julia, we get the plot twist about Julia wanting to take over the Syndicate with Spike, and Spike is like, no, like I ran away from this whole life for a reason. I don't want to jump back into it.
Right.
And it's just such a weird character development arc from Julia. I did not like it. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I just don't know what they're gonna do with Julia, honestly. That plot twist, again, I understand what or why they did it, because they want to deviate from the anime in some way. So I guess this is the best thing they could think of. But Julia's character is not the Julia from the anime whatsoever anymore from this point on.
Right.
So that sympathy we had for that character is completely gone, because now she's going to be the main villain in season 2.
Right.
So it's going to be completely brand new.
Right.
I don't know how I feel about it yet, because we haven't seen what's going to happen. So I'm going to keep my expectations extremely low.
Right.
Whenever season 2 does happen. But as for now, I don't like it.
Okay.
I hate it, actually.
I guess my question to you is, how do you want to see season 2 play out? And you can think about it more as we kind of cover more about the whole. Do you want to talk about Ed first?
Oh, you want to talk about Ed now?
Sure.
Okay. Ed pops up in the last 2 minutes of the entire show.
Right.
I thought she or he, they haven't discussed it yet. I thought that character was going to pop up at least halfway, but they saved it for the very end. Now, with that character popping up, I don't know how that character will fit with this crew, because now it's so late, you know? So
besides Vicious being my favorite character in the anime, Ed is actually my favorite character from the Bebop.
Yeah, why was that again?
I just love her randomness. Just her spontaneity, randomness, just makes me laugh. Just puts a smile on my face. The random things that she does, the random things that she says, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. They did it, I think, in terms of the design, character design. It's obviously straight from the anime.
Yeah, it's like cosplay.
Right. It's almost like cosplay. It's
Yeah.
kind of crazy. I wish they had done the hair a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, like make it more burgundy instead of bright ass red.
Right. And it would have been. Ed's going to be a very difficult character for them to.
One of the most difficult characters you can do.
Just because of how animated she is.
Mm-hmm.
She belongs on, the 2D world. But with that said, there's a huge opportunity here to kind of expand on Ed. And if they play the cards right, I think season 2 has a lot of potential if they put the whole Syndicate story kind of on the back burner.
Yeah.
I think I think the focus of the majority of the next season is they're all separate right now. Obviously, Ed is with Spike, and we'll talk about that whole situation and what her requests are. She name drops someone huge, absolutely huge.
Ed? Mm-hmm. Who's your name?
You missed it. Okay, I'll tell you.
I missed it?
Yeah.
She only talked for like a minute.
It's very important. But anyway.
Oh, she said, started with a V, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so there's an opportunity here for Ed to be the glue to this team. And I think, that is an opportunity that Netflix can take. I don't think they should really be too involved with the whole Syndicate situation here
Anymore. Yeah,
right,
I
and just
agree.
kind of put that on the back burner for now and just focus on these 4 characters getting back together with kind of, Ed can be the glue and, can be the reason for this whole thing. And they can even expand. She's such a blank slate as a character just because there is some depth to her in the anime, but I feel like there's some opportunities here that they can take, some liberties that they can take.
Yeah.
To kind of expand on that. And I was reading some articles, and I think the director was saying that they didn't want to introduce Ed so early because of her character, and how complex she is. And that, to me, is a good sign, in my opinion, because he's seeing that. Because a lot of people can see the anime and expect Ed to just be this random-ass character, just kind of there, right? But obviously, I think some of the biggest emotions that we see in the anime, and the biggest emotion that I felt when I was watching the anime is when Ed and Ein leave the Bebop.
Right. That's what makes this scene a little. It's like a reverse of the original anime, because in the original Edward left, and then the main 3 were still together.
Right.
This one, now they're split. Now Ed's coming in,
right,
to intervene,
and that's why it's such a good opportunity, because that'll make Ed and Ein leaving it'll make it an even bigger impact if that actually happens. But yeah, Ed sees Spike. He's all by himself. Spike is messed up. Ed pops up and says, "Hey, Spike, I have a bounty for you."
Right,
and she name drops Volaju, which is Vincent Volaju from the movie.
Really? How the fuck did I miss that? Fuck?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting.
Okay.
Because
now,
right. So they are bringing in characters from the movie, obviously, and this is a great opportunity, like I said, from this step away from the whole Syndicate thing, which I think was a huge misstep, and just kind of focus on the 4 characters and even wrap Vincent around this whole thing. I think Vincent is a fan favorite of the Cowboy Bebop series.
Well, I remember we talked about this in the review. I think Vincent, the reason why I liked him is because he's very similar to Vicious, but just a little more backstory.
He's a little bit more fleshed out,
yeah,
for sure.
A little bit more. The thing about Edward, though, having her join now, it's weird because in the original series, like, this is where Jet's progression is different, because he didn't have a kid in the original one. So I always saw Edward as like the daughter of the ship.
Interesting.
Since Jet already has a daughter, it's like that void was already filled with his character, because Edward, he was taking care of Edward in a way.
But here's the thing, though, right? And I know you had literally just wrapped this up, but when they saved Kimmy, right, his daughter, she calls Chalmers. Chalmers is now the husband of Alyssa.
Stepdad, right? Yeah.
Calls her daddy. She says, "Daddy, I want to go home." And you see Jet's face just turned kind of pale.
I missed that too. Huh?
Like, I fucked up, obviously, right, with this whole situation that I put my daughter through. She's scared, she's a little girl. And so, you know, this might lead to more kind of what we see Jet in the anime, in which he's kind of like
a curmudgeon.
Right, and kind of like a loner kind of person, but obviously he's still a family, he's still a family man, but you know, it's kind of just, it just adds, I guess they kind of came to a stop with the whole character development with Jet here. It's kind of hard to expand on, especially where they left it off, just because, you know, he did his daughter correct by, like, you know, showing up to her recital, right, obviously, but putting her through this whole situation creates a new dynamic, but
through hologram, by the way.
Right,
It wasn't there.
Right. Yeah. But I guess it does create a new dynamic, but I feel like the dynamic is very limited. Like, okay, you say sorry to your daughter, you make up to her, whatever, right? For putting her through that stuff. She's pretty much traumatized, but whatever, right? Like, she'll do what he needs to do. But yeah, just kind of like more self-reflecting for Jet, and I think it's going to be rough for the Jet character in the next season, just because we've seen everything already. We've seen his backstory in this show, which I think they did fairly well. It's it was actually pretty similar to the anime.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much the only character that I'm really worried about is Jet, is how they're going to further expand this character out.
Yeah.
And Ed might be part of that, like you said. So it'll be interesting.
We also forgot to mention Faye, why she left. So I guess now she's gonna pursue her her past, just like the original, but now she's really gonna do it full throttle. Like, she's gonna try and find her mother or anybody that's related to her. That's the thing about this too. They didn't really explain her. They just kind of skimmed over the fact that she was in cryostasis, and you know, very quick. They didn't give her a full, like, she has like amnesia in this series, just like in OG, but you know. So I'm wondering what they're gonna do with Faye, like how long she's gonna be away from the Bebop crew until she comes back, because I don't know what's gonna bring them together. It might be Vincent. They might be going after the same bounty or something.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's going to be tough is that, you know, I'm not sure if they did this in the anime, if they did it in the show, I'm sorry, in the Netflix adaptation, but I'm not sure if Faye knows just how old she is. I'm not sure if they mentioned just how old that video is.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So I'm not sure if she, like, I think her stepmother asked her, like, you know, is it really worth it for you to know, to find out if your loved ones are dead or really old or whatever, or if they even remember you, whatever.
Right.
So I don't think she really knows how old she is, because she's like a couple hundred years old, or like 170 years old, right?
Yeah.
In the anime, but and so that can be a plot point. But yeah, I think they really need to do some character building and some world building as well.
Yeah. Way better world building.
And there's a lot of opportunity here to kind of set it up. Jet's going to be a little bit more tricky. Spike and Ed are obviously together right now, and we'll see how that plays out. Yeah. But there's still some room here for character development,
right. I think you hit it right on the mark, though. They really need to step away from the Syndicate, but it's impossible now with the plot twist, because now they have to be involved in the story a lot more.
We'll see, because do we really need to see what the fuck Julia has to be doing with the Syndicate? Do we really care? Like,
now,
what can she be doing up? Like, what?
I don't know what's her end goal here.
She has no experience with this whole thing. She's literally just a lounge singer. She's Vicious's wife. Like, she doesn't have much experience as to how the Syndicate operates, and does she really have a vision for it? Like, we didn't really see that. She just wants to be, like, you know, like a cheap leader.
It just goes for the writing. I don't think they really thought it through.
Right.
I think they just created the plot twist just to be, you know, shocking.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's different.
Yeah.
But I don't think they have a plan yet, honestly, because I don't see how it could work in their favor.
Like, they can really milk this. Netflix can really milk this shit if they play their cards right. I think Vincent Volaju is a character that's big enough to completely warrant the entire next season. And if they just they could do like a half episode or even a whole episode update towards the latter half on the Syndicate, like whatever the fuck Julia was doing, we don't really care, and maybe have a better idea as to what they plan to do regarding that. Yeah. So,
that thing too. That engineer girl that had sex with Faye, she could have played Elektra. Now that I think about it.
That's true.
Yeah. Because now you mentioned Vincent. Now who's gonna play Elektra? They're gonna have to bring her too.
Yeah.
So, but is that all the characters they have up their sleeve?
I mean, they still have a whole slew of them, right? I mean, we don't need to jump to Vincent right away.
Remember that analogy I gave you? They kind of played their greatest hits already. It's like, I can't think of the other, besides the Toys in the Attic episode, the other ones don't really stick, you know?
Yeah. Chessmaster?
Yeah.
Chessmaster Hex?
Checkers Hex.
They might change it up.
Yeah.
Chess is too complicated.
Because they used Paralafu, they used the Ganymede, the
Sea Rats.
The Sea Rats. They used the Black Dog episode, which they actually didn't need to do that one. They used the first episode, of Desperado.
Yeah.
I can't really think of the other episodes for some reason.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we can...
And they completely fucked up Venus, Waltz for Venus with Gren, so...
Yeah. There's also Gren and Lynn. I'm not sure.
Do
they die? I can't remember if they got shot in the show. I kept getting confused. I wish they made them stick out a little bit more.
Were they in the show?
They were.
Who the fuck played them?
They were twins.
What?
That's the thing I can't remember is like I remember seeing two characters that look alike. They were both Asian, and one was a girl and one was a guy. So I'm not sure if they did a gender swap. But I also can't. I just can't remember. They didn't do anything memorable with them.
How the fuck? Wait, who? They're not talking about
But the thing is, I remember those two getting shot at the end. So I don't think that was them.
You mean Vicious is like that was Shin and Lin? That's supposed to be them?
Yeah.
Oh, that's whack.
Shin and Lin, yeah.
That's whack. I thought they were brand new characters.
Yeah.
So I don't remember them saying their names.
No, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think they could still, they could still make it work. It's just, they can really milk the shit out of Vincent, too. They do it right.
That pisses me off even more. That was a missed opportunity because remember in the series, at least one of the brothers had more loyalty for Spike.
Yeah.
And now, fuck, man.
Yeah.
They missed a lot of shit.
We'll see. Yeah. Because Vicious, right?
Yeah. One was more loyal to Vicious, obviously, but the other one was more like on Spike's side. So that would have been nice to see.
I really hope this doesn't turn into a whole Vicious and Spike teaming up to kill Julia. That'll be so stupid. Netflix, don't do that.
I didn't even think of that.
Don't take this idea. It's a bad idea. Don't do it.
That's a terrible idea, but that sounds very, very probable.
You want to see Vicious take a darker path.
Yeah.
Like, we don't... After all the shit that they made him go through, made him look like a complete bitch.
Right.
Like, even at the very end when Julia was playing some Russian roulette with them and was about to shoot him, I was like, please do not beg for your life, Vicious. If you beg for your life, and he kind of did, he said Julia.
Yeah.
He kind of did, and I was like, oh, man.
You know what pissed me off, too? Now that I know there's probably going to be a season 2. They already wasted the whole you're going to carry that weight text.
Yeah.
In the 9th episode. I was like, dude, that's supposed to be meant for the last episode.
Yeah.
And you used it way too early. I think I even heard Faye say it one time. I was like, that's kind of corny.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That just annoys me more, dude. Because the ending of Cowboy Bebop was paramount, too, because that's kind of the whole point of the show.
Yeah.
Of Spike dying. And, oh, man, this is terrible.
I can't remember...
I think my rating for the show just went down in my head.
Does Faye tell Spike? I can't remember if it was a switch up, but does Faye tell Spike to shoot them before they shoot? Or I think Spike tells Faye that.
Which part?
In this episode, in this show, I can't remember, but you know that whole scene where in the anime where Faye says "shoot them before they shoot you." That's like one of her quotes.
I actually can't remember that. What episode was that though?
It's like for the first few episodes that we meet her, I think. I think Spike ends up saying that to her in the show, which is pretty interesting.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, there are some scenes there are some pretty iconic scenes that we see, like the whole pose with Vicious and Spike at the very end, against the stained glass.
Yeah.
But we don't see the shot of this, the way that it does in the anime. I think it's pretty iconic when Spike gets thrown out the window and he leaves the grenade there, and the glass shatters because of the explosion. Like that's such a cool scene. It would have been so awesome to see that in live action.
Yeah, God, man,
a lot of missed opportunities. They're taking a lot of liberties, which is fine. You know, it's expected of Netflix. I just really hope that they put the Syndicate thing to pretty much put their mistakes on the side and just kind of
it just hurts.
Put on the back burner and think about it more, just because they have a whole opportunity here with Ed and Vincent, and they can do it right. I think they can do better.
Right.
The potential is there.
It's there. It just hurts my soul a little bit because you know this is my favorite anime of all time. So to see it's there. It's there. They have what they need. It's just the fact that they got to lay out the story a lot better to make it you know, a little more digestible.
Right.
But man,
yeah, Netflix. We're not all just like small brain farts, bro. Like, you can make things a little bit more complex, in my opinion, and a little bit more intriguing and spontaneous. Not everything needs to have a backstory.
Right.
You guys absolutely murdered my boy Vicious.
No,
but you know,
and Julia.
Right. There's still an opportunity.
And
here.
Grin. And just kidding. Just kidding. Maybe you guys can get. I really wish Shinichiro Watanabe had something to do with this show, because I saw in the credits that he was a consultant, but I don't know how much consulting he did.
Yeah, like probably definitely not at the actor level.
Yeah,
I remember John Cho saying that he didn't have any interactions with him.
Yeah,
but
speaking of which, my last question to you: out of all the live adaptation animes you've seen, how does this rank?
You talking about Netflix?
Overall, because I've seen only 4, and this is probably the top, which is kind of sad, or near the top.
So, in my opinion, this is probably the best Netflix adaptation that I've seen.
Okay.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But in terms of anime live action,
because I don't know if you remember in our retro review, I said if there's one anime that could be successfully adapted from an anime, this is the series. Yeah. So the fact that we have it and it's kind of like it's missing a little bit, it's like, yeah.
It was to be expected. But
I know. Was it though? Because I've seen Ghost in the Shell with Scarlet. That was terrible.
Yeah.
I've seen Full Metal Alchemist, which is fucking ass. I've seen the only one that beats this is Rurouni Kenshin.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, that was the only one that was adapted well. It still wasn't great, but it was pretty good. So, and what was the last?
It's hard. I think it's really hard to adapt anime.
Yeah, because it's anime.
If it's not grounded. If it's not really grounded in, if it's just not really grounded well. Or if it's just not Western enough, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's why I thought Cowboy Bebop would be the best, because the anime is known to be diverse, like in its cast. Because they got, they didn't have who's the Native American character?
The guy who gives Spike life advice.
Yeah, they should. They should have used him. I guess it was 2.
Maybe we'll see him in season 2. I think he'll be a great season 2 addition.
Yeah, I think that would have been insensitive though. They might have been.
Yeah. I think that would be a great season 2 add-on character, just because he plays kind of a big role in especially towards the end of the
season. Yeah. He was like in every major episode, like the Vicious and Spike episodes. He was in that episode.
Right.
He was even in the movie too.
Right.
Yeah. So they could have used that. I don't know. All right. So you gave it a 7 or 6, sir?
I'm probably gonna stick with the 6. I'm probably just gonna stick with the 6.
I was gonna give it like a 7, but now that we talked about it, I think it dropped down to like a 5.
Okay. Yeah.
5.5.
Or around the same.
Yeah.
It's around the same.
Because I'm still hopeful, because I like the main 3. You guys did it. John Cho, Mustafa, and Daniella. You guys did a great job. You did the best you possibly could.
Iron Man.
Iron 2. I don't even know if it's the same Iron the whole time.
I think they used 2 dogs.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it'll be. I think there's some parts that I liked, and that's why I'm not giving it a lower score. I could give it a 5. I was originally going to give it a 7.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some liberties that they took that I did end up liking, and did expand on some characters which I like. But it's just where they missed so bad, like Vicious and Julia, that's just kind of what killed it for me.
Right.
Just do right by that.
Well, at least the people that made the show, there was definitely some effort put into it, so I respect it. You know, there's still time, and you guys have a second chance basically to improve it where it didn't work. So when it does come out in 2023 or whenever the fuck it's gonna come out, I'm still gonna watch. I'm sure you're gonna check it out too, just out of curiosity.
See what they do.
Yeah, let's see. Just don't wait too long because John Cho is getting older. You know.
That's true. Yeah.
Everyone, even the actress that played Edward's gonna get older too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember if the actress that plays Ed her name is Eden or his name. It could be a guy or a girl. They did a great job with the whole non-binary. Is that what it's called? Non-binary thing. So with Ed, so that's good.
Yeah. So that was our thoughts for Cowboy Bebop live action Netflix version. You know, we thought it was all right. Could be better. So for you guys that are watching at home or listening to it on the podcast, drop a comment. Let us know what you thought. Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys think it could have been done better? Do you not want to see a season 2? Let us know what you think. And, you know, look out for new content. Check out my boy Andrew with his IG stuff. He sells shoes. He sells merchandise. So check him out. Miscreants. I'm going to put it in the description box. And Andrew, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, of course, man. Glad to be here.
Thank you again. And we'll be back for Spider-Man next month. So there's a lot of new stuff to review. It's kind of overwhelming, but yeah.
It's going to be a crazy December for you.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So thank you guys from the top of the dump to the back of the pack. This is the Top Back Podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.